Good morning, students. Today we are going to study pollination in plants. Now, what is pollination? It is the transfer of pollen from anther of a flower to the stigma of the same or different flower. Right? Now, to understand this process of pollination, we must first know the various floral parts of a flower and where the pollen are produced. Right? So, if we see a flower, there are four whorls in a flower. The outermost whorl is calyx, consisting of sepals. They are usually green in color. Then inner to calyx is corolla, and it consists of petals which are usually colored. These two are known as non-essential parts of the flower. Now, inner to the corolla, there is present androecium, and its individual part is stamen. And the innermost whorl is that of gynoecium, which consists of carpels. Now, stamen, it represents the male reproductive part of the flower. And the carpel represents the female reproductive part of the flower. Now, if we see a carpel, it consists of three parts. This basal solan portion is known as ovary. This stalk-like portion is known as style. And the terminal receptive portion is known as stigma. Now, this is the place where the pollen have to land, right? Now, on the other side, if we see a stamen, then it consists of two parts, that is anther and a filament. And usually an anther consists of two lobes, and this condition is known as Biethecus condition. Now, if we try to cut the anther as a transverse section is just like we cut round cucumber slices at our home. Similarly, if we cut the TS, we are able to see a four-lobed structure, right? Now, if we see in detail, if we see the structure of anther, now there are present two pollen sacs. These structures are known as pollen sacs, or they are also known as microsporangium. So there are four pollen sacs in an anther, two in one lobe and two in another lobe, right? Now, if we see the detail, these two lobes, they are joined with the sterile structure known as connective, right? Now, if we see the anther wall, it consists of the outermost layer, that is known as epidermis. Then inner to epidermis is endothecium. It has cellulose thickenings in its inner and radial walls, because of which it is also known as fibrous layer. Then we have 1, 2, 3 middle layers. And the innermost layer is known as tapetum. And these tapetal cells, they surround the microspore mother cells. Microspore mother cells, or we also call them as MMC, or we also call them as PMC, that is the pollen mother cells. Now, what happens is, now each pollen mother cell or the microspore mother cell, it undergoes meiosis, and it forms four microspores. or we call them as pollen grains. Now earlier these pollen grains, they are fused with each other, and later on they separate from each other. And if we see mature anther, if we see TS mature anther, then we are able to see these pollen grains in the two chambers of the anther at the time of maturity. And these pollen grains, they are released out at a point known as stomium. That is also known as line of dehiscence. So these pollen grains, they are released from the anther and then they fall on the stigma of the same or a different flower. So this is known as pollination. Now broadly speaking, pollination can be of two types, that is self-pollination or cross-pollination. Now if we see, self-pollination is a pollination in which there is transfer of pollen from anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower or a different but genetically similar flower. Now it may happen that the pollen, they may not fall on the stigma of the same flower but on some other flower which is growing on the same plant. So that flower would be genetically similar to the flower from where the pollen are coming. So that would also be self-pollination. Now as far as cross-pollination is concerned, cross-pollination it is a transfer of pollen from anther of a flower to the stigma of a different flower, genetically different flower of some other plant but of the same species, right? So that is cross-pollination. Now when the pollen has to be transferred from one flower to another flower, then some agent or agency is required to do so. So depending upon the agent or the agency that carries out this cross-pollination, the cross-pollination is of following types. The first type is anemophily. What is this anemophily? It is the pollination with help of wind. Now wind is an abiotic factor, non-living factor. So wind is helping in pollination, and we can see this type of pollination in many plants like grasses, like maize, cannabis, bamboos and so on. Now some of the characteristics which we can see in such wind pollinated flowers are that these flowers, they are small and inconspicuous. That is, they are not much noticeable, right? Then these flowers, they are colorless, they are odorless, and they are nectarless because they don't have to attract any insects for pollination, right? Then the non-essential parts in such flowers, that is sepals and petals, they are usually reduced or they may even be absent. Then in case of unisexual flowers, now what are these unisexual flowers? The flowers in which either endoecium or gynoecium is present. If in a flower only endoecium is present, then that would be a male flower. And if only gynoecium is present in a flower, that would be a female flower. Now in case of wind pollinated flowers, in case of unisexual flowers, male flowers, they are produced in abundance. They are more because more pollen is to be produced, right? Then if we see the pollen, then the pollen produced are small, they are light, they are dusty, they are very smooth walled, and they are very lightweight so that they can travel to hundreds of kilometers, right? And if we see the stigma part, then stigma is also feathery or branched to catch the wind carried pollen, right? So it has been seen that these pollen, with help of wind, they can be carried up to hundreds of kilometers, right? Now basically if we see anemophily, it's a non-directional process. It's a non-directional and a wasteful process as well. because so many pollen they have to be formed. Now if we see a single flower of cannabis, it produces around 5 lakh pollen. And if we see a single tassel of maize, then it produces around 20 to 25 million pollen. So it's a highly wasteful process because most of the times the pollen, they don't reach the destination. So the plant has to produce a lot of pollen. Now these pollen which are suspended or dispersed in the air, they also act as a nuisance for some people. They can cause bronchial allergy. They can cause bronchial allergy, or they can cause hay fever in many people. And most commonly the pollen coming from the plants like Amaranthus spinosus, which we call it as prickly chulai, or Chenopodium album, that is a common bathu is there, then Ricinus communis, that is castor is there, Cynodon is there, and so many plants, they produce pollen which act as an allergic factor for the people. Now these plants, different plants, they produce pollen in different seasons. So we can prepare pollen calendars. And by consulting this pollen calendar, we can attribute or pinpoint an allergic reaction in a person to a particular pollen, and that person can be treated for that. So this is regarding the characteristic features of wind pollinated flowers. Now the second type of cross pollination is hydrophily. That is pollination with help of water, and it is seen in many aquatic plants like Ceratophyllum, Vallisneria, Zostera, and so on. Now some of the characters of such flowers are that again they are small and inconspicuous. They don't have to attract any insects and so on, right? Then these flowers are again colorless, nectarless, and odorless. And one of the most important feature is that the perianth or the other floral parts, they are unwettable. Now that is very important. They are unwettable so that they don't, disintegrate inside water or desiccate in water. So perianth and floral parts, they are unwettable. The pollen which are present, they are also small, they are light, and they are unwettable again. And their specific gravity is same as that of water, right? Then again, the stigma which is present in such flowers, that is long and sticky, and again unwettable. So this is regarding the hydrophily. Now the third type of cross-pollination, it is zoophily. Zoophily. Now zoophily, it is the cross-pollination with help of animals, and that may be insects, that may be birds, that may be human beings or snails, and so on. Now depending upon which agent is carrying out this cross-pollination, then we have different types of zoophily, and out of which the first one is entomophily. Entomophily. What is this entomophily? It is the pollination with help of insects. And some common insects which carry out this cross-pollination, that is entomophily, that is carried out by moths, butterflies, wasps, bees, beetles, and so on. Now these insects, they usually visit the flowers for nectar, or these flowers, they have edible pollen, or they come to the flowers for shelter, and in that process they pollinate the flowers. Now some of the important features of such flowers are that these flowers, they are large, they are showy, and they are brightly colored. Now they have to be colored because they have to attract the insects for pollination. The insects, they are attracted towards the colorful parts, and especially the petals, they are colored in this. Now in case if the petals are not colored, then in that case some other part will become prominent. For example, in bougainvillea, if we see, the flower is small, white colored, and to attract the insects, the bracts, they become colored in case of bougainvillea. Similarly, if we see in Euphorbia pulcherrima, then in that case, the leaves near the inflorescence, they become red colored, right, in order to attract the insects. Then in these flowers which are insect pollinated, there is a landing platform for the insect so that the insect can land on it, right? Then some of the important features are that these flowers, they produce nectar. Now the insects, they will visit the flowers for nectar, right? Then they will have some odor. It may be pleasant odor or it may be unpleasant odor. Now pleasant odor as in case of Raat Ki Rani or jasmine, and in some cases there is unpleasant odor as well which attracts the insects, that is in case of Ristolachia, right, or Rafflesia. There is unpleasant odor which attracts the insects, right? Then in some of the flowers there is production of edible pollen grains for which the insects will visit those flowers, right? Then in this case, the pollen grains, they are usually heavy. They may be heavy and they are covered by a sticky substance known as pollen kit. Now this pollen kit, it's a sticky substance made up of carotenoids or lipids which are coating the pollen grain. And when the insect visits the flower, this pollen kit, it gets stick to the legs of the insects, and those insects, they will then carry these pollen grains to some other flower. So in this process, this insect pollination, it occurs. Now the moths, they usually visit yellowish or white color and highly scented flowers at night. And the butterflies and wasps, they usually prefer to visit red colored flowers. And these bees, they are basically colorblind to red. They use UV radiations to see colors, and in the UV radiations, the red color appears black to them. And so they rarely visit the red flowers. They usually prefer blue or purple, violet or yellow colored flowers, right? So this is regarding the insect pollinated flowers. Then we have ornithophily. Now ornithophily, it is the pollination with help of birds. And many birds like hummingbirds, sunbirds, even the crow, common crow or the parrot, they act as pollinators in this case, right? And the common plants in which this bird pollination is occurring, that may include bombex, the silk cotton tree, or Butea monosperma, that is a common palash tree, or erythrina is there, or callistemon, which is commonly called as bottle brush. So in all these flowers, bird pollination occurs. So some of the important characters of such flowers are that these flowers, they are brightly colored. Again, because they have to attract the birds towards them. Then the floral parts, they are large. And most commonly they are leathery. They may be leathery. Then very important feature of such flowers is that they produce huge amount of nectar, which is full of sugar, right? The birds will visit these flowers for the nectar, and they may have even edible pollen. Then the odor or the scent, it is usually absent in case of bird pollinated flowers. Why? Because the olfactory sense of the birds is very poor, right? So these are some of the characters of bird pollinated flowers. Then we have chiropterophily. That is the pollination with help of bats. Now, bats, as we all know, these are nocturnal flying mammals, and they can transfer the pollen up to a distance of around 30 kilometers, right? And they usually prefer to visit normally they visit the flowers at night, right? And these flowers, they are dull in color. Since they usually visit at night, so the flowers are dull colored. Then these flowers, they have a fermenting or fruity smell. They have odor. They have a fermenting or fruity odor, which will attract the bats towards them. And these flowers, again, they will produce nectar. Now, it has been seen that Chiropterophilus flowers, they produce even more nectar than the Ornithophilus flowers, right? And the flowers which the bats usually visit, they open at dusk or at night. And some of the common Chiropterophilus flowers include Kigelia, that is a sausage tree, or Adansonia, or there is Anthocephalus, that is the kadam tree, right? Then we have very interesting pollination, that is Malicophily. Now this Malicophily, it is the pollination by snails, and it has been seen in some aquatic plants like Lemna and Evolvulus. And there is another type of pollination, that is pollination with help of snakes, and that has also been seen in Sandal and Micaelia. So these are the various types of pollination and the various characteristics of these flowers which are pollinated by different agents. Thank you.